Hey there guys, so in this video I'm going to be running through optimizing images prior to putting them up on your website. The reason you need to know this is essentially to ensure that the files are the correct size prior to going up, to help things with load times and just make sure your website's optimized and is going to be having the best or giving the best user experience to your audience. If you've got experience in other tools such as Photoshop or other graphic editing softwares, then this may not necessarily be too beneficial for you, as you may already know how to do this. However, if you've got no experience in image resizing, then this should give you a good overview as to how to go about it, and again, get these images ready prior to going up on your website. So the tool that we're going to be using for this example is imageresizer.com. It's a free open source platform which you can use to resize your images. Obviously there are others out there, we're just using it for the purpose of this video. So if I go ahead and open an image file, then I downloaded these 3 images for the example, and if we come into properties, we can see that this image here is there we are, 3.38 megabytes. And it's, where are we, 5,760 by 3,840 pixels. Now, given that most screens, I mean, granted you've got 4K these days, but your typical screen's 1920 by 1080 in pixels, your computer or someone's device may not necessarily utilize all of this, so it's a bit overkill as to what you need for your website in this instance. The reason they're usually so big is if you wanted to print them off or use them on some sort of I don't know, t-shirt or other printed photograph, if that makes sense. As I said, for your website itself, it's not necessarily needed, and we can get away with making these images smaller to increase load times. Obviously, while we do want to maintain quality, it's really a case of making sure there's a balance between quality and load speed. So what we'll do is we'll run through the image resizer. You've got 2 different options on the website. You can do them single images, or you can do them in bulk. For the first example, we'll use the bulk resizer. Now you'll look to resize images in bulk if it's an image which isn't going to have it's not a featured image, for instance, for like a blog post. You'll be looking for a blog post to have the same aspect ratio to make sure everything looks uniform and the correct sizes throughout the site. You haven't got any incorrectly sized images. For other images like galleries, background photos, etc., a bulk image resizer is fine. As you can see here, you can load up to 20 files, and to start with, all you need to do is open up the folder and you can highlight them all. And as it's bulk, you can upload up to 20 files, simply drag and drop. You see they'll appear down here, and you can click on the proceed to bulk resize button. It'll upload onto the website, and then you'll be given a few different options. So here we go. As you can see, they've uploaded. It's telling you the original size, the original pixels, and from further down, you can see how much smaller, you want to make them. So you can go for 25% smaller, 50% smaller, click them, and it tells you how big those images will be. Now, as I mentioned, you're not going to need massive images, so you're either looking for around 75% or 50%. That's still quite large, especially for that larger one. So in this instance, it may be worth taking this one out and then resizing that separately again later. But for this example, those image sizes would be fine. So I'll select 75% for this example, and you'll then be presented with the optimize your image optional. You can either choose best image quality, good image quality, or average image quality. Again, this will come down to the whole balance effect as to whether you want to maintain that high quality image or you want to sacrifice a little bit of that to get a bit of better speed in terms of how fast these images will load. I'll select best image for the purpose of this. Okay, you've then got the option to save image as JPEG or PNG. Now, 90% of the time, you're probably likely going to be saving as a JPEG, as all the PNG images, the transparent images, we would have done for you in the web design development of your website. Or PNG is if you do have transparent aspects of an image and you need to maintain that, you'd select PNG. As I said, for this purpose, you'll select JPEG. Okay, so that's all set. From here, you'll look to click resize images. Notice how you've got download. This is an ad. As it's a free site, there are ads all over the place, so don't click on that. Just make sure you're clicking on the blue resize images button. We'll do that now. Right, and as you can see, these images have been resized. The new size is 214 kilobytes, where before I think it was just over 3 megabytes. So we've reduced the size significantly. Obviously, the pixel size as well is reduced, but these images here will now load a lot faster onto your website, which is what we're trying to achieve here. Okay, and from there, then you've got the option again. Don't click on the ads. Just be careful not to. You've got the option to download images, and you can click on download images. And there we go, it's downloaded for you. And from there, those images will be fine to use on your website. Okay, so if we go back to the single image now then. So a good example as to why you'd want to be using the single image resizer would be the featured image for your blog post. If these featured images, so we'll go over here, if these aren't the same all around, then what you'll find is they'll be overlapping. They're not going to be uniform throughout, so it's not going to look great. So you might be wanting to put a new featured image up. It might be a certain size as per one of these images that we have, and you might be wanting to have it's the same size. So what you need to do firstly is obtain the aspect ratio, and I'll be able to tell you that it's 1000 by 500 pixels or something along those lines. So go ahead and drag the actual image in over here. There we go. So you'll then be brought over to this screen, and you'll have a few different options. You've got the preview, which we're on at the moment. You've then got crop. You've got flip and rotate. But you're not necessarily going to have to worry about those unless you just want to have a bit of fun. So we'll go over to crop, and what you'll see here is the width and the height. So 1000 by, where are we? What did we say? 500 is what we said earlier. Considering the image is actually quite a large one, obviously it's not taking up that whole portion. So that's the aspect ratio that we want to achieve. We can hold shift and look to increase this size. Okay. Put it up there. There we go. So that's going to maintain the the aspect ratio, and all we'll have to do now is click crop. There we are. Once the image is cropped, you then have the option to resize the image. So obviously it's not at 1000 by 500 at the moment. However, what we can do is type in 1000 by 500. And again, you will then be presented with target file size. You're not going to have to worry too much about that. And then whether you want it to be a JPEG or as a PNG. In this case, we'll click JPEG. You might have noticed that we unlocked that there. It was 1000 by 512. I've unlocked it and I've resized it by 1500 so that we could do that manually. From there, again, much like the single image, you've got the option to resize. Again, don't click on any ads if there is a start now or a download button as there was earlier on. Just be aware it's the blue resize button on this particular website. So I'll click resize now. There we go. And you've now got the option to download the new image. It's at 1000 by 500 pixels and it's at the new size or a new reduced size from there. So to confirm what we've covered then, obviously we've gone into the bulk resize and the single image resize. Obviously single image resize being for featured images and different images where you need to maintain the aspect ratio, and bulk resize just for your general images and galleries and backgrounds, etc. Have a play around with it. It's going to come with a bit of experience, understanding how big you're wanting the image to be on the screen, and if you know that the image on your screen you want it by 500 by 500 pixels, for instance, then if you can make it as close to that as possible on here, you're on the right tracks. But as always, if there are any other questions, anything I haven't made too clear on this, feel free to ping me over an email or give me a phone call. Happy to answer anything. But best of luck playing around with it. Take care.